Okay, good morning, you all. It's Sunday morning. Lordy, what a week we have had. Let me adjust this a little bit. I hope you all can hear me. I am not seeing any comments, and I don't know why. We're having all kinds of trouble. Mark Zuckerberg keeps changing stuff, and then he doesn't tell you ahead of time. He just changes it up, and there you go. So I don't have the questions available to me or who's on for some weird reason. Anyway, this morning we were going to talk about wrath as one of the seven deadly sins. And taco. Oh Lord, that's one. Where do you begin? So, with wrath is defined as a strong feeling of hatred or resentment with a desire for vengeance. It is an overwhelming feeling and desire of revenge distinguishes wrath from other anger that is balanced with reason, which is not a sin. Christian teachings also differentiates between God's wrath and human wrath, in that the wrath of God is regarded as a manifestation of divine righteousness. In justice, as a deadly sin, wrath is believed to generate other sins and further immoral behavior. Each deadly sin has a countering heavenly virtue that overcomes the opposite vice. The heavenly virtue that counters wrath is patience. And Lord, Mamaw's running out of patience with this administration, let me tell you. I have never in my life seen such ugly people wanting to be ugly and hateful for no other reason than to be ugly and hateful. So let me see why my dashboard isn't working. Okay, so I can't see any comments at all. You'll have to forgive me. I have no idea what's going on with this thing. Okay. Comments. That's what I want. There we go. Now they're on here in a totally different place. Damn you, Zuckerberg. Hello, Linda from Looney, West Virginia. Kate from Nevada, or New Mexico, excuse me. Susan Pratt from Long Island. Ann from South Dakota. Marshall from Arkansas. Patty, good morning. Carmel, good. Thank you for hearing. Good morning to Pamela and Jennifer, Linda. Joan Henry from Johnstown, Pennsylvania. There we go. Now I see Shelley. Righteous anger is where we are as progressive. Yes, that is true, and it is righteous anger, which is different from wrath. Because wrath in Taco's world, remember how he kept saying in his speeches, I am your retribution. He's not God. He's not the one who's supposed to be going, I am your retribution, other than he wants his own retribution because he's butthurt that people went after him, rightfully so, because he broke the law. And now he wants to put his hand in the treasury. That's a whole nother thing we'll discuss in a minute. Trump has accused former President Barack Obama of committing treason, a crime punishable by death. Trump's allegations were based on misleading claims by Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, and we use that term intelligence very loosely. Trump has the DOJ charged James Comey with lying to Congress because Comey had the nerve to investigate him, but he also went after Hillary Clinton. So, get over it, dude. Trump, with the help of Bill Pulte, the director of Federal Housing Finance Agency, is forcing the DOJ into charging Letitia James, Attorney General of New York State, and Eric Swalwell of mortgage fraud. He's going after John Brennan of false statements to Congress about the Russia investigation and Adam Schiff for mortgage fraud. He wants Jerome Powell removed and is having them investigate Jerome Powell, who is our Fed chair, simply because he won't lower interest rates. He went after Chris Krebs for saying the election was fair, but we did have Russian interference. And now he's after Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, and Thomas Massie, all Republicans, all who used to support him over the Epstein files. He's going after judges, lawmakers, and colleges. If you cross Trump, he unleashes his anger thugs and now the DOJ until he can't. The way to handle the wrath of a toddler is what Nancy Pelosi taught us. Just like you do a toddler, you ignore him. He can't stand being ignored. The fact that right now he can't answer any reporters is killing him because all they're asking about are the Epstein files, and that's driving him insane. So keep up the pressure. What I need all of y'all to do is this week start calling your congressmen now that those of us who live in Republican districts, they've decided to come back to work, and call your senators. I believe the Epstein list will pass in the House, but they don't know about the Senate. So all you got to do is call those Republicans and say, please justify to me, your constituent, why we are protecting pedophilia. Plain and simple. There's no other reason. And the more old piggy Trump squawks and squeals, the more you realize he's involved because he doth protest too much. And, you know, when he was in New York, his mentor, all he told him about was, oh, you know, you just keep throwing aspersions everywhere else and that'll keep him off of you. Well, we're on to his game. We know his mode of operandi. And him saying everything's a hoax, well, you know, that shill only works so long. And then you realize the King of England isn't operating off of a hoax. All of these other people aren't operating off of a hoax, and that's why he's issuing out all these pardons. He needs his goon squad back. But I'm hoping these people are smart enough to take their pardon and go off and be quiet, because all he wants is people to do what they did on January 6th. Good morning, Debbie Reisner. Floyd from cold New York. It's really windy here, and I got to tell you, our electric's been flickering on and off. Our internet's been on and off, so if you lose me, that's why. Welcome to rural America. Joni's in Pennsylvania. Deb Morgan from Cincinnati. Good morning, Brenda from Hamden. Pocahontas, Arkansas is Sheila King McCoy. Lori's here from Texas. Candy from Mount Sterling, Ohio. Well, you're just up the road. Oh, God, you're right, Shelley. He is so envious of Obama. It's not even funny. Did you see President Obama, the class act that he is, greet those men and women on the plane coming to D.C. to see the monuments? That's what a president's supposed to do. Real class act here. So, I also wanted to ask you all for your good energy, prayers if you're so inclined. One of our porch community members is in ICU right now. She's a wonderful person. She does a lot of energy and work. She's a retired teacher towards the youth in our community. She's making sure they have haircuts, clothes. She goes in and tutors. She just does a lot since she has retired for the youth of our community, and she is really, really sick right now. So we want to send our best energy to her to get well. Now, any of you who would be interested that are subscribers, now this is just for subscribers, in doing a live Zoom event with me, if you would, send a private message, or we have a Google Doc form to fill out so that we have your email address and we can send you a link to Zoom and do a live Zoom. So I thought y'all would like that. I also want to know, Brenda tells me we're selling a lot of merch, but I haven't seen any pictures yet. Post them pictures with the merch. I want to see them because that would be a lot of fun. And I want to thank Artsy Aubreys again for hosting my merch. She's put on a whole bunch new items there, so take a look at what she's designed for Mamaw's Porch community. And Obscure Mics, because when I have a technical issue of the hardware type, he's always there to help out. Jeremy Barker. So he's got a really good podcast over on YouTube about any kind of equipment for those of you who are looking at equipment for the internet world. Good morning, Terry from Florida. And another one, Rose from Lakeland, Florida. All right. So I have another question for you all. You'll see it. I put up a poll. I'm going to be interviewed on a podcast tomorrow, and their question was, if you could have J.D. Vance or Pete Hegseth on your porch, who would you want? Well, frankly, I wouldn't want either one of them nasties on my porch. But Lord, to spar with one of them and cut him down to size, that's a dilemma. So you tell me who you think Mamaw should choose to be on her porch, if so inclined. I got a lot of interviews coming up. Now I want to tell you that at 10:45 this morning, over on YouTube will be the premiere of my discussion with Reverend Dr. Caleb Lines, and then I will post the YouTube link on our Facebook page so you can watch it. It's a half an hour. I think y'all will really enjoy it. Because he gives us, I hate to use the term ammunition, but he gives us good information on how to fight this extreme MAGA right who are trying to say that they're Christian nationalists, which is an oxymoron in and of itself. They're trying to hijack Christianity, and he really gives us the tools on how to fight back with that and how to push back. The young woman, you saw my post about how she talked to churches saying that she had a baby that needed formula and only 2 were positive. One was a mosque and the other was a small church in Somerset, Kentucky. He's called the Appalachian Pawpaw. They have him online there. And he immediately said yes, he was going to pay out of pocket. He'd meet her and wanted to know what kind of formula she needed. And as I've always said, you find the poorest community or the poorest person you know, and that's the one that will share with you, not the rich folk. These mega churches wouldn't do anything, hung up on her. And then in Tennessee, that minister who has a mega church got on and proceeded to call her names and just really tried to send her down the road. And as it turns out, it seems that that church borrowed $2 million and they don't really know where the money went, except the preacher bought him a $500,000 house. There was another preacher down in New Orleans that gave her down the road and called her a witch and all this stuff, and now they have found out that he too may have been absconding with church funds. So there again, not doing the Lord's work. When it gets to be about me and riches and lavishness, it's kind of like some of these televangelists that, I had to have 2 Lear jets because one wasn't enough to do my ministry. That's when you need to start thinking, what the hell's my money going for? And let me ask about it. These small rural churches, they're the ones doing the work and they can't afford it, but they're the ones that are bringing food in for people. They're the ones that are taking care of their neighbors because they know them. These big mega churches, all it is about self-righteous piety, in my estimation. So, we covered next week will be sloth. I think it's funny they have the picture of the 2 Helmsworths brothers. And they're standing there, Chris and Liam, all ripped. They say they're 6'3". They say they weigh 220. And then you see the picture of the Taco, who claims to be 6'3" and 220. And it's like, Taco, honey, that's another dog that ain't hunting. You've told that lie for so long. Well, let's see what you are when you take the lifts out of your shoes. And Lord, they can't even get a girdle around you anymore. You're looking kind of pathetic and pudgy, and I don't think you've seen it in quite some time. I hope you don't miss the toilet. That's really aggravating to women, especially in that new bathroom you built, when you miss the toilet and don't lift the seat. You girls know what I'm talking about, don't you? Rose Wheeler, amen. The church is not what God intended us to be. No, it is not. Rick Hale, thank you from Vermont. Is it cold up there? I bet it is, but I bet your leaves were pretty. Shannon, would love to have them both as much as they make my skin crawl. Would love to give them a good tongue lashing and make them drown with facts. Mega church leaders are always the one. Yes, and it always seems to be the ones that are so anti-gay that it's kind of like, look in the mirror and be true to thyself. Maybe you are. Or the ones that are so self-righteous in people that leave a marriage or whatever, and they're the ones that are going outside of it. I mean, come on. It's that old, if you're pointing a finger, three are pointing back at you. Stop. Just stop. We're so done with all of y'all. And that's what we have to do with our outside voices. We are just done with it. Now, I hope you all saw the newest big trend. I'm going to do a post on it. The biggest trend on the internet right now are MAGA followers who are burning their red hats. Now, Papa always says, yeah, wear them red hats so we'll know who you are. Kind of like the Scarlet A or wearing your little Nazi thing on your shoulder. Boy, they're burning them things because guess what? They've run out of immigrants to terrorize. They've run out of women who won't stand up for themselves, and so now it's going after everybody. Prices did not go down. Fuel prices have not gone down. Food prices certainly haven't gone down. He has not made things better for America with tariffs and bringing these jobs back. We went from an unemployment rate of less than 3% under Joe Biden to where everybody's getting laid off. The economy is constricting at a rapid rate. He's doing away with jobs. He's doing away with health care. That's his big thing. And with food security. So what kind of monster is sitting in the White House? It's all about him. And that's what we keep trying to tell you. Anyone who just keeps wanting more and more wealth, who has to live in his gilded gold castle, you can't give them enough. There will never be enough for Trump and his family. They are gluttonous, which is what we're going to talk about next week. They just can't get enough. And yet a poor man, or those of us in the middle class, I mean, food, health care, shelter, being kind to each other, just the basics, being able to afford to live like a human being. That's all we ask for, but it's not enough. We have to now give up what we have because he thinks if you have it, he gets less. That's not how this works. A rising tide will lift all ships. But no, he wants to dam up the bay so there's no tide at all and the ships are grounded. So we got to stop that thinking. We have got to stop that thinking. And the way to do that is to use our outside voices to show our rage. Rage is good, wrath is not. It's not a matter of trying to get even or get back. It is simply a matter of getting what we should have as Americans, equal under the law. I'd love to get him in class and at least read to him the Constitution, because honest to God, I don't think the man can read. Okay, Rick says it is snowing in Vermont, by the way. Linda, she says Erica Kirk is the new Tammy Faye. I'll just leave it at that for y'all to make decisions. I won't pick on someone who is a new widow, but good morning from Memphis, Tennessee. I have a cousin that lives down in Memphis. Okay, here in Dry Ridge, Kentucky, all the small churches are trying to get food to people. See, that's what I'm saying, Judy Turner Morris. poor churches. Now, I'm not talking about small community churches that really are involved in their communities and help their communities. I'm talking about these big old churches, where the minister will lecture you about tithing, actually drive out to your home to get his tithe. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, them people ain't, that ain't washing. Yes, Carmel Snyder Johnson wants me to remind you all during Katrina, and I think there was also a second flooding in Houston. Joel Olston, who bought a former basketball arena, professional basketball arena for his church, wouldn't let anybody in for shelter as the streets were flooding. And yet he gets on TV and he wants your money. Yeah, he's a sorry, sorry person. Everybody thought he was so nice because he comes on TV nice. No, he's not out there doing the Lord's work. He's just saying what he thinks he can say to get you to give your money to him. Cena from Texas. Hey, y'all. Yes, so as Shelley brought up, what's happening is so he's running out of immigrants. He's running out of women to terrorize. So now he's going after his own base. And he thinks that if he starves you and he keeps your health care, that you will bend the knee and succumb to him being a king. Well, we're Americans. We ain't never been brought up that way. We're not going to be brought up that way, and it ain't going to work. Well, we don't look like the idiots, Judy. He does. Oh, he's going to get hit in the butt. Now, everybody, here's what I want you to do. When you get trolls online, first of all, make sure that they're trolls. If they are, don't even answer. Just get rid of them or they'll keep coming back. But on people that say Epstein files are a hoax, I mean, Trump's starting to sound like a worn out record. Everything is a hoax or fake news. Well, it's not. So what you need to say is, well, the King of England also has those files, and he totally stripped his brother of everything trying to do the right thing. So how is that a Democratic hoax? So we're not going to let him get by with that. When QAnon, back when that was a thing, back 2016 to 2020, and Michael Flynn was leading the charge, all they carried on about was this pedophile ring. Well, it was there. It was real. But it wasn't the Democrats. It turns out it was the taco. And he thought, boy, he'd get everybody on the bandwagon because he never thought that it would come home to roost. He never dreamt that his own people would question after he said, yes, we're going to release him. After everyone in his administration said they would release him. After Blondie Pam Bondi, the protector of pedophiles, said, oh, we're going to release him. That's the first thing I'm going to do. And then she got in office and read him. And then it was like, oh, shit. This is about him and all of his minions running around. I've had people get online, well, what about Bill Clinton? What about Bill Clinton? Far as I know, Bill's going after grown-assed women, and shame on him, and that's between him and Hillary. But if it does turn out he diddled with girls, I do know he was on a plane. He has openly said he was on a plane. Bill Clinton not only openly said he was on a plane, he said go ahead and do the investigation. He said, release the flight logs. Well, now that gets a little tricky. Somebody brought up Joe Biden, for God's sakes. But here's my stance. Anyone who preys upon another human being should be exposed. And anyone who preys upon a child, and a child, Megyn Kelly, is defined as anyone under the age of 18. A child should be in prison, and there should not be an age limit or a statute of limitations. If you preyed upon a child, you should be in prison. Period. Full stop. Now, I do want to say something about Megyn Kelly. I cannot believe what that woman said, and good for that 14-year-old that set her straight. Keep in mind, Miss Megyn left Fox News because of her lawsuit against sexual harassment from Roger Ailes. And yet she's trying to say it's okay what Epstein did to teenage girls if they were over 15. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? So, anybody, stop watching her show. She should absolutely be banished. You know what? Don't give that woman any headspace. Don't give her room to breathe. Shame on her. Shelley Kemp, 4 more women are saying Trump assaulted them at the Epstein house. Yes, and now that little Johnson woman who said that Trump raped her at 13, but she dropped her lawsuit because there was death threats against her family. And it looks like she may go in and testify before Congress, but she wants to do it out in the open where she feels she would be safer. Hi, Deborah from Northern California. And well, probably my accent does remind you. Now, my grandma was from Flatwoods, Kentucky, so I got a lot of Kentucky in me too. In fact, it's sometimes we have to break the news to people from Kentucky and West Virginia that river, if you're on this side of the river, that makes you an Ohioan, because they don't like to hear that. Same with the Ohioans. They think they're still Kentuckians, and it's like, no, honey, you live in Ohio. It's kind of hard. Okay. Let's see what else we got. Yes, Judy Morse, that she was a sick person for saying that. Okie dokie. Yes, Jennifer, she says we have to be accountable for our own behavior. Absolutely. And it's time. The other thing I'm very chafed about this week, I've kind of gotten over the senators, the 8 senators that broke and ended the shutdown. I am stunned and I am livid now that tacos, enablers, and people who blatantly broke the law are now getting free access to our treasury. It started with Taco saying he is owed $230 million because he was charged and investigated, and rightfully so. If he hadn't had that woman judge down in Florida in his back pocket slow walking, he wouldn't be president right now because his ass would have been on trial. But that woman will have to live another day to her own conscience. She's evil. But now he has said Michael Flynn, who pled guilty, he was a general who sat next to Putin. You saw me post the pictures. Who gave up his country, who was the QAnon captain of the world. And now he says Michael Flynn's entitled to $50 million from our U.S. Treasury because he pardoned him, even after he pled guilty to doing what he did over the Russiagate. So we've got the issue with Michael Flynn. 8 U.S. senators snuck into the bill that opened up the government that they would be paid $500,000 per phone where their cell phone records were subpoenaed for January 6th on who they were calling and who was calling them. That is absolutely outrageous that they are going to get paid. Miss Lindsey Graham, God love his little heart. He just clutches his pearls all the time. Lindsey Graham, who stood in front of the Senate that night and said, Mr. President, we've had enough. I'm out. This is over. I'm done. That Lindsey, well, they subpoenaed his records because he was calling back and forth to the White House too. Well, now he's claiming he had 4 phones, and they had subpoenaed his phone log records, and so he's going to get $2 million U.S. taxpayer dollars. There's 8 of them that will make a minimum because everybody's got their personal cell phone, they have their Senate cell phones, and then they have a campaign cell phone. So all of them have at least 3. So all of them stand to make $1.5 million off of you, but you can't have health care benefits. Now you think about that. When you make your calls this week, you might remind, if you're in with those 8 senators, and I'd already posted it, and you might remind them and say, hey, instead of you putting that money in your bank account, how about lowering my health care premium with that money? That's what we ought to be doing. But yes, so Trump's getting enriched. Everybody just seems to think that our U.S. Treasury is his own personal slush fund. That tariff money, there's been no accounting of that tariff money. We only have his word of how much money he's bringing in. And keep in mind, that's not new money. That is not money coming from other countries. We pay those tariffs. I don't understand how in the hell he can't get that through that lizard brain of his. So we are being a secondary tax because we are paying those tariffs. Where's the money? Where's the money from where he tore down the East Wing? Where'd that money come from? Where's the accounting of that money? Even if it's donations, if it is a public works project, there needs to be an accounting of it so we know how much is being spent and how much more there is left to spend. He is claiming that this monstrosity he wants to build is only going to cost $300 million. Are you kidding me? We won't get it for less than $1 billion, and he's already torn down the East Wing. He's made a mess. There's asbestos everywhere. And oh, by the way, that stupid ass contractor hadn't been paid and he's a whining. Well, what did you think? That's how Trump operates. Okay, I'll quit. I'm getting mad. Judy, of course I give you hope. As long as we draw breath, there is hope. There is absolute hope. Okay. When the lowlife Epstein says Trump is evil, yeah, that is true. Epstein even said that Trump was the most evil man he knew. That's because the man lacks any ounce of empathy. There is none. He is a absolute textbook sociopath. He could be easily a serial killer, and I'm not so sure you couldn't count what he's doing to those fishing boats as not being a serial killer. Because there again, we have no accountability. We can't prove what's on those boats because we don't know. They're blown to smithereens. There's a family suing the United States government claiming that that was just a fishing boat. We don't know. We don't know where the intelligence is coming from. I mean, just he's trying to start a war so we'll quit paying attention to the Epstein files, but we are not going to let him get by with that now, are we? No, we are not. Judy, just keep calling. Leave a message, because remember I told y'all they got to log these calls in. How does Trump get to use our money? Exactly. Because our Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who is a billionaire off of Wall Street, longtime friend of Trump, if he has friends, which I don't think he does, he's just opened the purse up and said, here, whatever you want. That's not how this works. Our Treasury is not the Taco's private slush fund. Congress is not doing their job. Mikey Johnson, you talk about somebody that needs impeached and replaced. Mikey Johnson needs out of there immediately. He's been flogging himself so much he can't think straight. He is absolutely incompetent. He shakes in his boots at the mere mention of Taco's name. The Speaker of the House is arguably the second most powerful person by our Constitution, more so than the Vice President, because he controls the Congress. He controls the laws that come through there. He controls the debate. It is the Speaker is the second most powerful person. And speakers, until Mikey, used to cherish that. They used to protect it. They would go against their president of their own party if they felt it was necessary. Because, I don't know, they understood when the Constitution said they were a co-equal branch, not a bootlicking subservient branch. So Mikey Johnson needs to go. And next year, most of them people need to go, and we're going to make sure that happens from governor's races and state houses on down. Speaking of state houses, I'm really proud of Indiana. They're like Ohio. They have a super majority of Republicans, and they said, no, we're not going to play this game of gerrymandering. and they wouldn't change their gerrymandering. So good for them. So at least we know there are some Republicans of the Mike Pence mold that eventually do get a conscience. We can't say that about Ohio. There's not a Republican in Ohio that has a conscience about him. Ohio and Texas outpace Florida in being the two most corrupt states in the union. Okay, so Debbie, that's how Trump gets to use our money. It's because they let him. Wendy Wagner Pangelina says, well, yeah, we're all going to get together. That's what the porch is about. Yes, Patty Garland, they are a pack of thieves. Okay. What else we got on here? We got pretty good viewers there. Okay, so you will see if you are a subscriber, you're going to get something to fill out that's a Google document. Shelley, correct me if I'm doing this wrong. And if you fill that out, which includes your email address and that you would like to participate in a Zoom Live, then fill that out. That's what we're trying to collect, people who would be interested in doing a Zoom Live, because I hate this. I can't see your faces. You can't interact and talk back, and then it looks dumb when I'm scrolling through these trying to read. This is the one thing Zuckerberg needs to work on. If we're going live, it'd be nice to really make it an interactive live. Well, no, Jennifer, I would not. She says England isn't sharing intelligence with us anymore. Nobody is. Not one single solitary country, including Colombia, and they've got ties, with Bernardo Moreno. Even Colombia is done sharing intelligence with us, which is what makes me suspicious about these boats we're blowing out of the water. I think he's just blowing boats out of the water to say he's doing something when he's not. You wait and see. You watch not a full-size cruise ship, but you know how they have the small boats that take you on your tours and stuff? You wait till one of those gets accidentally blown out of the water, because it's a-coming, because that's the region he's in. It ain't going to be pretty. So yes, keep calling. How can Taco get away with taking our money? Where are checks and balances? Well, there again, you'd have to ask little Mikey Johnson. Cheryl, because Mikey Johnson, all he can do is tuck tail, go into his back room, get out his cat of nine tails, and beat his back because he is so scared. He quivers. That little twerp is just terrified of his own shadow. You just want to walk up and poink him on the nose. No, Carol, I don't think Mikey Johnson's a snake. I don't think he's smart enough. I think he's that much of a chicken shit. He really is that much of a chicken shit, and he will do anything the Taco tells him to because he's just terrified of being stepped on. He sure ain't Granny Nancy, is he? There again, see, us Mamaws are going to fix the world because Granny Nancy knew how to jerk Taco's chain. She didn't put up with him. So yes, keep calling every day. Just make it the first thing you do in the morning. Get your cup of coffee. Get you a big old smile. And start calling. Just aggravate the crap out of them. Like I said, they automatically know when I call if they make the mistake of answering the phone. That's like, yeah, we know your zip code. Yes, Mike, but I really think Marjorie Taylor Greene, if you'll remember back at the Kevin McCarthy fiasco of getting him lost on his speakership, it only takes one person to file to have a new vote. I really think Marjorie Taylor Greene's going to bounce Mikey Johnson's ass. Well, leave your voicemail. Sandy Hill says senators and congressmen no longer answer phones in Utah. You can only leave a 15-second voicemail, but leave it. They have to take care and log your calls. Okay. Donna McCullough says, in the end, Mike Johnson will be one of those in prison for doing his bidding. Remember Watergate? Absolutely. As will Blondie Pambondi, the protector of pedophiles. Cash Patel, I think's about ready to tuck tail. You talk about somebody that's in over their head. Boy, those two are absolutely incompetent. But then it gets back to I blame a lot of this mess on Merrick Garland, and I do, because he was trying to act like a judge instead of a law enforcement officer, and in doing so, trying to look so fair and didn't want it to look political, that he kept stalling and kicking cans down the road, and he was afraid to act when he should have, and so here we are. And I also blame that judge, I can't think of her damn name, down in Florida. She absolutely was put in there because you're not making me believe for 1 second that just coincidentally she drew Taco's 3 cases down there. She was put there to cover his ass because he knew he was in trouble, and she did her job. And so when everybody says they hope one of the justices croaks, she's in line to take the place, so you don't want that. Not right now. I'm not so sure some of those justices aren't ripe for being impeached. Jackie Ursetti says, would it be wise for Dems to in the House to call to vacate the chair? Nah, let the piranha eat themselves. All right. I hope federal judges, as long as they can hold the line. He's running our country as Sherry James says he's running our country as he does one of his businesses. He gives all the orders and the employees do what he says regardless. And if they're not replaced, we need to know what's happened to the majority of his businesses. Absolutely. He was a lousy businessman. He wasn't really even a businessman. It was a family mom and pop shop that just happened to be propped up because he inherited millions of dollars and he played a shell game. If you haven't watched The Wolf of Wall Street, and I forget the other one, but there was 2 really good movies out about, if you looked the look and talked the talk, you didn't really have to do anything. It was a shell game. Remember Enron? How it turned out to be nothing burger, but millions and millions of dollars were lost, and people lost their entire plans due to Kenneth Lay. Taco is of their ilk. He just thinks if he says it enough, which worked for a while, that it's true. You won't question him, that he's a great businessman. He wasn't crap until they came up with that show, The Apprentice. They had to prop him up. He's a nothing. So we just got to keep the you already put it on. Thank you, Shelley. Juliet, will I run? No, I ran for office once. Little known fact, back in 2008 in a ruby red county for county commissioner. I lost by 247 votes, but I learned a lot about politicking back then, and I have determined that when you get to be a certain age, and I will lead by example, that our job is to help young folk come in. Our job is to bulldoze, pave the way, be elder statesmen to help out a new generation to take over. I do not believe that people should go to office as a career choice. It should be as a stepping stone in your giving back to your community or your government. So how's that? And Alan Baugh, hi from Shelby County. Yes, you do. Uh, yeah, you still got Jim Jordan. I know they tried to re-gerrymander it so Adam Miller could run against Jim Jordan, but they got to protect old Jimmy boy because he thinks that's what's going to keep him out of trouble. But I still think he's in a lot of trouble with the Ohio State University. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, Jim Jordan, the mouth of the Senate, or the House, House Judiciary Committee, is embroiled where he was a wrestling coach at Ohio State University. His wrestlers went to him about being molested by a doctor who has since committed suicide because they were after him. He's had to testify. These guys went to him. They have proof. They even have 2 referees who went to him about being molested by this doctor, and he did nothing. Kind of like that deal over at Penn State. You got coaches who sit in silence when they know something is happening. So Jim Jordan's trying to keep from having to testify and coughing up money, so he thinks he'll hide in Congress. He's right along with that pedophile ring. Although the wrestlers technically were over 18 years of age, parents still sent their kids to that institution thinking they were going to wrestle on scholarships and be safe, and Jim Jordan did not protect them. Carla from San Diego, California. Oh, Eric Swalwell. Well, that's because Eric, helped with the impeachment. That's the same reason why he's after, oh, his name escapes me real quick. He's after everybody because they dared to impeach him, and he should have been impeached. But, old Mitchie McConnell, he had to put his thumb on the scale. Jeannie, yes, Pete Hegseth is playing a game. He thinks watching this on TV is a video game, and he's probably got a bourbon next to him while he's watching. Anne says, I call every morning. I tell them to drink their coffee because it ain't easy answering our phone calls. No, and it shouldn't be easy. You're kinder than I am. I don't want it to be easy. I want them every day to say, why am I working for this man? Yeah, well, you know what? I just have a suspicion, because I've told you all along, Trump's bane is women. He's going after Marjorie Taylor Greene, and as much as I don't like her and her policies, she's a cat with 9 lives. She's going to be all right. He doesn't want her as an enemy, and I think he just created one. I know, but there again, Carol, she says she's got concerns about Venezuela and the enormous military targeting them without congressional approval. In the Constitution, there has been no act of war against us. The president can only unilaterally act and call a war if we have been attacked. We have not. We are the aggressors in this case. That needs an act of Congress by the Constitution. But there again, little old Mikey's quaking in his boots. He probably changes his underwear a couple of times a day because he is just terrified of the taco. I don't understand why. He needs to be more terrified of the people out here that he is not serving as Speaker of the House. Be that as it may, he needs to go. Wendy, the mortgage and tax fraud makes it laugh. Yes, the taco is the biggest offender. He is a convicted offender of that kind of fraud. But with Eric Swalwell, he just laughed because he said, my home is in California. I own one house. My residence is California. I rent an apartment here in D.C., so I don't know what they think they're going to get. None of these cases are going to go anywhere, especially with the top caliber people that Trump's administration is putting in as prosecutors. All right, y'all, I've kept you past time. Now go to YouTube, or I'm going to post the link as soon as we get off of here. And please watch my interview with Reverend Lines. Remember, Tuesday night we'll have another live. If you are a subscriber and you see the Google Docs, please fill it out and get it back to us. And we're going to try to do a Zoom live next month so we can all see each other and talk and have questions instead of me trying to scroll and read it like, I'm a quick reader, which I am not. So stay salty. We're going to stay on this. Lord, the material just keeps writing itself. When I first started this, I thought, boy, how am I going to come up with stuff to talk about? Good Lord, now it's a matter of what don't you talk about? So I love y'all. Stay salty. Use your outside voices. Call your congressmen and your senators. And those of you that are in the states where the 8 are going to enrich themselves, you really get on their butt and you spread the word of everybody in your district. They need to call, even if they are a Republican. Say, you need to call and find out why they're getting $500,000 per phone and your health care premium just went up. That's what you need to be doing. So I love you. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.